Hello, Ray Phoenix here. Welcome to Let's Play Ape Escape Free Part 14. So we're finally going to Tomoki City, Tomoki's very own city. Yeah, Tomoki's that creative of villain, he has his own city. And oh look, staying true to the tradition of these Ape Escape games, we get to the end of the game, it always says, capture Spectre.
Okay. It looks like Spectre is somewhere deep in this area.
Of course he is.
In Tomoki Tower, I think.
Where else would he be?
If we can capture Spectre, then we can stop all of the broadcasts. Be sure to get him. Okay, gotcha. Oh, and one more thing. Tomoki should be with Spectre, too. Oh, that guy with the strange head. Well, I'm not sure what he's up to, but you'd better be careful.
Well, of course they're going to be together. We always saw them together ever since the beginning of this game. So who else is going to be with Spectre? Monkey Pink? Is that where Monkey Pink ran off to? So you see, Tomoki has his own guard robots that are armed with these weapons that came straight out of a Ratchet and Clank game. But just like any other enemy game, could easily be killed by hitting their wind-up key in the back of them. So we're going to come across what we expect from this game, only it's very futuristic. It's like the future city. So a lot of games have future levels in them. They always seem to be close to the end of the game. Like in the Sonic games, the last level of the game was like the Scrap Brain Zone, and then there was the Metropolis Zone near the end of the game, and then there was Crash Bandicoot 2, where one of the last levels of the game was like Future City, where it's Dr. Neo Cortex's city, and it's very futuristic, the Future City levels. Well, this game has the Future City level near the end. Same with the original Ape Escape. We're back to the present day at the end of the game, but still called the levels Futurama, implying that the levels were set somewhere in the future. And so now we're near the end of the game. We're going to be coming across even more futuristic stuff. I mean, these things aren't so overly futuristic, considering the fact that these flying saucer things are actually primitive compared to how they were in Ape Escape 1. And we could pretty much destroy them easy and get the monkeys out of them. And so there's going to be like futuristic stuff we could ride on. We could ride on hover cars. We could fly around buildings and stuff like that. We have to climb up that building. I think we saw that looks like a statue of Dr. Tomoki. That's Tomoki Tower. That's actually a building. Yeah, a building built to look like Dr. Tomoki. What is this supposed to be now? Gotham City? Like in Gotham City where they have like large buildings that look like statues that have so many unnecessary statues hanging from them. And all it does is to become a hindrance to Batman or whoever it is has to fight against his villains or something like that. That's all that ever does. It just becomes a big hindrance. But it's not going to be a hindrance to us because we know how to get, well, at least I know my way through the tower. Mostly because I played it for this game tons of times already. I'm more familiar with this game than I am with any other Ape Escape game imaginable. And the music in this level is very classical sounding. It doesn't sound futuristic at all. I mean, Crash Bandicoot had music it sounds like could have been right out of the future. This level, it just sounds like generic classical music. That sounds like the kind of stuff that might dominate the future. But then again, no one knows what kind of music is going to be what we're going to be hearing in the future, or what's going to be popular in the future and what's not. Well, we know that Dr. Tomoki apparently rules the future. This is the closest we get to seeing actual time travel in this game, since this game doesn't really officially have time travel. Or maybe this game's already set in the future to begin with, the futuristic 2006. So, of course, it's going to be something for us to film, a comedy show where apparently it involves these monkeys dancing around to some music that's not even really there, unless they're dancing around to the background music of the game. This is a new morph gear we got for this level. We saw this in the intro to the game, the Cyber Race is what it's called. This is some sort of like special suit that Kay could put on. It allows him to fly around and shoot electricity. It becomes similar to a Lackman similar to a Lackman from Mega Man 1, but it's not that great of a morph thing actually. It's actually very overrated. The Wild West kit is way better for shooting projectiles out of monkeys and enemies. And oh look, there's giving us a better look at the Dr. Tomoki statue. There's going to be monkeys on this path here. We could ride along here. We could find some monkeys. We're not going to capture most of them. Most of them are going to escape us. So, ooh, I got lucky that time. Most of the time, these monkeys just, fly past. We should take you several rides on this ride, if you can even call this a ride, so I could get all the monkeys. The Kung Fu Fighter is actually the best morph gear to use for this level because it allows you to jump, and the nunchuck that Kay uses to capture monkeys is actually very efficient and covers a large range of in front of him, so yeah, it's actually useful for catching monkeys. Well, we don't need to capture monkeys now. It's not even keeping track of how many monkeys we have yet to capture. That's because all we need to do right now is go and find Spectre. I remember playing this level a lot as a kid. It's actually one of my favorite levels in the game. It's one of the more straightforward levels of the game. It doesn't involve as much exploration, but it does have a set linear path, which is, which some Ape Escape games have set linear paths. And the last level of the original Ape Escape, where it plays that music, cuts a strangely titled Welcome, with pretty much a linear path of a level, and that's considered to be one of the best final battle levels, one of the best last levels of any game. So, ever. Some people actually say it's a really epic level. It really puts most of what I've seen in earlier PS1 games and last levels of games seen on the SNES and Genesis and NES. It really puts a lot of that to shame. It was a really epic level where you're running down a path and there's a robot chasing after you and stuff. There isn't much of that in this game. There is similar stuff in this game, but they try to be unique and not just simply copy Ape Escape 1. There is some puzzle solving where you have to use your gadgets to figure out how to get through some of these puzzles. Well, by now you should have all the gadgets in the game, so you have to destroy that RC car. Now you can ride up the elevator. See, I remember playing this level as a kid, and I remember playing this level. My mom's friend would come over, and she's like, "Oh, I think my son has this game. I recognize that character on the screen. Yeah, his hair. There's only one character like that. My son has this game." Yeah, that game must have been Ape Escape 3, 'cause that's the only game that this K character are playing as right now. He only appears in the one game, Ape Escape 3, unless her son happened to have that Ape Escape Big mission, but I highly doubt that since it was on the PSP and it came out only in Japan. So you use a Kung Fu Fighter while it's still equipped. It's actually really good at capturing monkeys. I know I said that the Fantasy Knight has the best net in the game for the morph gears. This one also has a really good, it's like a close second. Actually has a really good, being like a really good net that we have on us, a nunchuck net if you want to call it that. So we become like that Michelangelo from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, where he just uses his nunchucks around. Only this time around we're doing Kung Fu, which is completely different from ninjutsu. I find it insulting when people say Kung Fu and ninjutsu are the same thing. They're not the same thing. They're two forms of martial arts that come from different countries, that have different political systems and hence speak different languages and use different alphabets. That's like my grandma when I told her about it that time I got a manga in the mail by mistake. And then my grandma was like, "Oh, you get a Chinese book in the mail," after I said it was Japanese 2 seconds earlier. And there are a lot of them. Well, I mean, I don't think my grandma really cares about stuff. My grandma's never cared about the political world or the social economic world. It's just way too above her. She would never understand any of these games that I play. She never understands the point of these games or what I'm even trying to be doing. Like, she's not even good at comprehending what these games I'm playing. But then again, not everyone needs to comprehend games. A lot of people don't care about games. Some of the most successful people in the world never played any games, and look at where they became. I mean, George Washington obviously never played any of these video games, obviously. And then there was Albert Einstein. But I don't really agree with. I know Albert Einstein. I don't think ever played these games, but I'm not sure how well he became there's some people think he's like a fraud, or some people think he's he's overrated. Some people don't like Stephen Hawking for similar reasons like that, because he bashed religion. But then again, Bill Gates is more likely to have played games like these, considering the fact he's done programming, coding work. And he seems to be really good at doing that program code. I was just watching him on a TV show from 1991 where he was demonstrating Microsoft Visual Basic. Microsoft Visual Basic is the first programming language I ever learned. It is a very basic language, as the title suggests. I always thought I could be able to use it to eventually code games like Ape Escape 3, but I think Ape Escape 3 is way too advanced to be coded by Microsoft Visual Basic 6. Mostly it's for coding like simple computer forms and things like that, have buttons and that do functions, or you can control them with simple keyboard commands, but still isn't overall an easy coding. That's why I liked coding so much when I was in high school. I really loved doing computer coding, but I eventually lost interest and I found out it was way too challenging for me. I prefer to just stick with books and drawing comics and stuff like that. That's a better lifestyle for me. And making these videos, just captured a gold monkey with an afro right there. I got shot out of that Tomoki statue in the middle. So many statues of Tomoki. This must have been built by a society that worships Tomoki. And look at that, it's another Spider-Man wannabe out there that's climbing on the side of the building. Just have to wait for our morph thing to fully regenerate itself, replenish its energy, and then there, now we can become the genie dancer. So we could get Robin Williams wannabe out here and start to use his disco music. It's gonna make Spider-Man fall and land in that chair right below. Or apparently he must be really weak if he just fell from such a great height. I thought Spider-Man could fall from great heights and not get injured. And look at that, his name is Riley. That's actually an obscure reference to something. That's a reference to Ben Riley. He was this guy that appeared in some of the Spider-Man comics. He believed himself. He always believed that this Spider-Man was him. He believed he was Spider-Man. And then as it later turns out, he's actually a clone of Peter Parker. They actually made a series of comic books about that, the Ben Riley Spider-Man comics. I also knew, but I first heard about him from that Spider-Man game on the PS1 from 2000. Then I eventually read some of those Ben Riley Spider-Man comics. I actually have one of them actually that I got at a convenience store a few years back when you actually have to fight against Venom, and it's a big challenge. Yeah, I used to love that. I used to love going to the downtown my city and going to that convenience store that sells comic books and finding like really old, like from the 90s, like there were Spider-Man comics from the 90s, back when Marvel was in their second gold age, one of their greatest eras, the 90s, and they had all the best X-Men comics and Spider-Man comics, and that was like the basis for that Spider-Man game on the PS1, which is really good. Marvel had a lot of good video games back in 2000. That really awesome X-Men arcade game, which has never really been properly ported onto any game systems. The closest I ever got to getting a port on an actual game system would have been that X-Men Reign of Apocalypse game on the Game Boy Advance. I actually made a video of that game a while back. I wanted to eventually do an LP of that game if I get the sound to work, which I still haven't figured out how to do that yet. That's why I haven't really been focusing on that much recently, because I've mostly been focusing on games like these. Like Ape Escape Free, a game that definitely deserves, coverage from me. And of course, Dr. Tomoki is going to place his guard sentries right there on the edge of this pole so they can just blast us off afterwards. This is giving us another cue to use the Cyber Race, because we are strongly encouraged to use the Cyber Race throughout this level, so we can jump around and fly around and shoot Iron Giant. We're going to become like frickin' Iron Man or something like that. Who needs to be like that when you can just have proper gymnastic skills and then you can just jump down and use your sword and break them apart? So now we're near the end of the level. Now through those doors is where we're going to be coming across the boss we'll be fighting against next, Dr. Tomoki. At first you have to ride on these clouds, these heavenly clouds. They look like they were rejected from that level from Spyro 4 Enter the Dragonfly, Cloud 9. It's actually one of the best levels of the game, I think. I actually have my favorite music. It's what I imagine what Afterlife looks and sounds like. So we're definitely expected to use the Cyber Race for this part where we could jump and zip around and smash them down and so because those robots, those SAL robots, I'm not sure that's supposed to be a parody of HAL 2001 or something, or HAL 2000 or whatever it's called, HAL 300 or whatever it was called in that movie 2001 A Space Odyssey, because those monkeys are called SAL and some number designation. They have jetpacks, they look like freaking RoboCop. They're like RoboCop mixed with Boba Fett. They have like freaking jetpacks that shoot out laser blasts and they can like fly around. They have shields as well too. Yeah, they're also shielded, but if you get hit on their shield, you actually break their shield completely and leave them with nothing. So now it's time to use a Cyber Race. Not that this is going to do anything. The Cyber Race is hard to control in this game. I wasn't even trying to hit that button over there and I accidentally hit that button. I'm trying to hit that monkey. It's impossible to aim. The Wild West kid has way better aiming than this. There, I stunned him. Come on, I'm pressing the button to use the net. He has the worst net of any of the monkeys in this. Above any of the worst monkey net of any of the things you could morph into in this entire game. It really sucks. It doesn't work. He just mostly spends a lot of time just flying around Sal 13. A monkey's called Sal 13. And you're gonna run out of energy before you can really do anything useful. But that's what I mean by the Cyber Race sucks. It actually is the worst thing you can morph into in this entire game. I know it's supposed to be like the main, like, pivotal feature of the morph gadgets, or the morph geysers, whatever you call them, but I'm probably gonna use that one the least. There's way better morph things. Like I said, the Wild West kit is actually better for this stuff than the Cyber Race. The only benefit the Cyber Race gives is that it could glide around or it could be used to fly and zip around, and that's just about it. Even the Wild West kit has a better net than this thing, because the Wild West kit could actually lock a net that actually locks onto monkeys and could actually be used easily to capture her monkeys. Very easy, actually. So now we activated the door there, so now you could fly across there, and then we'll take on Dr. Tomoki. We'll be doing that in the next part. We're going to fight against Dr. Tomoki and possibly Spectre if we are lucky. This is Ray Phoenix, signing out.